In this demonstration, we will walk through how to use Total Test to record, execute, and analyze test cases for a COBOL program. We will cover both virtual testing, VT, and non-virtual testing, and VT, along with viewing results in the web UI, analyzing code coverage, and executing tests through a Jenkins CI/CD pipeline. Total Test helps developers automate unit testing, validate program behavior, and measure code coverage for mainframe applications. We begin in the Total Test workbench on the Getting Started page. This page provides quick access to tutorials, best practices, and documentation that help developers become familiar with Total Test features. From the workbench, developers can record test scenarios, execute tests against host programs, and review results directly within the development environment. In this example, we will create tests for a COBOL program called CWKTCOBX. To begin recording a test, open the COBOL program in the editor. You need to provide the required host login details. Based on that, the system logs in and opens the COBOL sources. Once the COBOL source is open, you can record test cases from the COBOL source. Right-click and select Record Test Case. Then provide the project name and location where the virtual test case should be recorded. Whatever program you have written will be recorded as test cases and scenarios. Here we are working with unit tests, so click OK. After completing the security steps, the test cases are recorded. Now go to the recorded test cases. Now you can execute the test. Here you can select the host, apply the settings, and run it. Once it runs, you will be able to see the reports, including how many test cases ran successfully, how many failed, and the detailed report for each test case. When you view this report, you can clearly see the success rate and where the output file is recorded. If you change the input values here, it will produce an error because you manually changed the values. This is part of threshold testing, where you can test different scenarios after recording. If the test is executed again with different values, it will fail because the test was originally recorded with different input scenarios. If you see here, there may be an exception message, such as job ended with SOC7. Now go back to the original execution, change the values back to the original ones, and execute it again. Now, it will be 100% successful. Why does this happen? Because the program was originally recorded with those same values. This is all about Total Test scenario recording and execution. Based on your program, the system creates scenarios, interfaces, architecture details, and many other components. You can also see how many test cases are covered in your scenarios or program. If you look here, this is the repository where you can search for your executed components. From here, you can create a total test scenario. Based on the folder structure, you can create a functional test scenario, which is called NVT non-virtual test. Again, if you apply and run this test, it will give you a 100% result. Here we have covered two types of testing, VT and NVT. VT means virtual test cases and NVT means non-virtual test cases. These tests were created and executed for the CWKTCOBX program that we recorded earlier. This demonstrates the overall non-virtual and functional test execution process. You can also see all these results in the web UI. This is where the non-virtual test cases that we created are displayed. The web UI provides access to uploaded reports and execution details, especially for non-virtual test cases. Test configurations are stored in JSON format, which can be modified if necessary before running the test again. By providing the required host ID, tests can also be executed directly from the web UI. Total Test also provides code coverage analysis, helping teams understand how much of the application code has been tested. To generate a coverage report, configure a repository and provide the necessary system identifiers. After execution, Total Test generates a coverage report showing which parts of the program were executed during testing. In the coverage view, green lines indicate code that has been covered by tests. Red lines indicate code that has not been executed. This allows developers to quickly identify areas that require additional testing. Total Test can also be integrated with Jenkins CI/CD pipelines. You need to create a configuration and provide the required values. This defines how you're going to test the program using the test scenario. Provide all the necessary information, including the host connection and ID. This is the URL that we saw earlier. And here you need to provide the scenario path, which is essentially the project path. After checking all the information, save the configuration. Once it is saved, go to the Jenkins pipeline and select Build Now. You will see all the information here, and the process will run in the back end using the CLI pipeline. Here you can see the output, which shows all the information for the tests executed through Jenkins using the CLI for total test coverage. There are multiple ways to execute the test cases or scenarios, including Jenkins CLI, Web UI, or the Workbench in Eclipse. You can view all the execution details in the console output. If you look at the bottom right side, you can see that all the test cases have been created in your local system. You can review all the information there. With BMC AME DevX Total Test, developers can automate testing for mainframe applications, measure code coverage, and integrate testing into modern DevOps workflows. By supporting execution through the Workbench, Web UI, CLI, and CI/CD pipelines, Total Test helps teams improve quality while accelerating delivery. System. You can review all the information there.